What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about why do Brits drive on the left side of the road? It's such a simple question, and yet I have never once thought to learn about why this is. Why do we drive on different sides of the road? This is probably one of the biggest culture shocks or cultural adjustments that Americans have to make when visiting the UK. And I just want to know how this all started. Who came up with this? I'm very interested. So, with that being said, let's take a look.
If you've ever visited the UK, it is hard to miss the fact that they drive on the left.
Yeah, yeah. No kidding. I don't know why that's so funny to me, but it's like, yeah, if you're driving around the UK, I really hope you have noticed that you need to drive on the left. It's just disorienting. And you know what else I forget about? The steering wheel is on the right side of the car. This would be so terrifying as an American to try to drive in Britain. I swear. Just looking at this scares me. It disorients me. Like, you spend your whole life driving on a certain side of the road and you're just expected to flip everything over. So for British people, I guess this would be the opposite question of why do us Americans drive on the right side of the road?
This can be quite disorienting, as
Yeah.
around 65% of the world drives on the right.
Really? I was actually very curious about that. I was wondering, like, I've learned some things, like, about measurement. Here in America, we use the imperial system, which I thought was normal or standard to measure in miles and inches, and apparently America is strange, and everyone else is using the metric system. I think we're also like one of the only countries that says the letter Z instead of Z, and stuff like that. So I was wondering, are we being weird again? Being contrarian by driving on the right hand side of the road? But no, we are in the majority for once. 65% of the world drives on the right. So Britain, you are being very strange, very contrarian, driving on the left. How did this happen?
Have you ever wondered why this is?
Yes.
Why did
yes.
the UK and most of its former colonies choose to drive on the left?
Yeah.
The answer is a rather long and complicated one.
Really? So the way they're phrasing this is that the standard was driving on the right, and the UK decided to go out on a limb and make a concerted effort to be left side drivers. This is very interesting.
Let us explain.
Okay.
For starters, it should be noted that the practice of driving on the left even predates cars.
Oh.
It all started in the Middle Ages.
Oh.
And perhaps even further back to in ancient Greece and Rome.
Really?
During those times, there was always the risk of being attacked while traveling, since
What is I gotta be honest, I did not expect that we were gonna jump into a time machine back to the Middle Ages to learn about this. That's right. Before cars and stuff, there were like horses and carriages and things. So, okay. This has to do with being attacked? That's why there's like a practical purpose to driving on the left?
Middle Ages, and perhaps even further back to in ancient Greece and Rome. During those times, there was always the risk of being attacked while traveling.
Sure.
Since most people are right-handed, they tended to travel on the left to keep their sword-fighting hand free in case of attack.
What? What? I mean, I've literally never thought of it that way. Why would you? Man, maybe the British are like onto something here. I mean, hopefully this is not necessary in the modern day, but that's really cool. Back in the Middle Ages, yeah, if most people are right-handed and you're gonna have like your sword in your right hand, you want to be on the left side of stuff. You want to be on the left side of the road or stuff, so that everything else is on your right, where your sword swinging arm is. Really?
Swordsmen preferred to keep to the left, so their right arm would be nearer to an opponent. This
Yeah.
also reduced the chance of the scabbard hitting other people. It was
Really?
also safer to mount and dismount towards the side of the road rather than in the middle of traffic.
Do do you only dismount a horse to the left? This is really not the discussion I thought that we were going to be having, but here we are. You really do you only dismount your horse to the left? Could you not dismount to the right, or if you're on the right side? But it doesn't matter. You're on the left so that you can swing your sword at people, and what? This just literally carried on for the rest of time. But why didn't this become the norm in like the United States and other parts of the world? 65% of the world drives on the right. I can't believe we're talking about driving on the right hand side of the road, and we're getting I like forgot because we're talking about horses and swords and attacking people. But yeah, wouldn't this logic carry on for the whole world? Why doesn't everyone just go on the left side of the road? If because this does make practical sense, I guess.
There is some evidence that this practice of riding on the left may have even gone as far as ancient Greece and Rome.
Okay.
And that wasn't the only case of people traveling to the left. For
Huh.
instance, in 1300 AD, Pope Boniface VIII declared that all pilgrims traveling to Rome should keep to the left. So how did people ever switch to the right?
Wait a minute. And then people doing a pilgrimage to Rome? Yes, Rome. The emperor just commanded that they go on the left because no one knows. He felt like it. So there's a couple of reasons here why you would be on the left-hand side throughout history. Um, you know what the interesting thing here is, now that I've heard all this, it actually sounds like most people, or at least in this region, were left side drivers going way back. How did the 65% of us become right side drivers? I think is what they're going to talk about now.
Well, it turns out Napoleon preferred to ride on the right, and so did Hitler.
Oh.
In fact, Hitler forced Czechoslovakia and Austria to switch to right-hand driving.
Oh, well, that's a reason why we should not be right-hand drivers. Oh my god.
However, since Britain resisted both Napoleon and Hitler, the country never switched to the right.
What? Wow. This is starting to make sense how this became a regional thing. Britain resisted Napoleon and Hitler, both of which were right side favoritists, we'll say. They favored the right side and made people do it. And Britain resisted, which is why Britain to this day is left side drivers. I gotta be honest, I thought this was just gonna be some kind of like boring traffic law explanation. This is actually very, very interesting history behind what side of the road that we drive on in the present day.
One country that did not have to make the switch, however, was America. Although the U.S. likely started out riding on the left, as in
Right. Or should I say left. No, but right. That's what I was kind of wondering. Wouldn't America have started as left side drivers, just like England? And at some point, somewhere along the line, we switched. But why?
in England, the country has been driving on the right side of the road since colonial times. At that time, the country saw the use of large wagons that were drawn by several pairs of horses.
Okay.
These wagons had no driver's seat, and the driver sat on the horse at the rear left. Driving to the
Okay.
right meant the driver could see oncoming traffic, and it also made it less likely they would steer into a ditch.
Okay. I think I understand. You got these big old horse-drawn carriages with lots of horses that don't have a driver's seat. And the only place you can sit is in the back on the left of the horse-drawn carriage?
Several pairs of horses. These wagons had no driver's seat,
Right.
and the driver sat on the horse at the rear left.
Oh, you sat on the horse because there's no room in the wagon. Oh, right. Okay. You're I need to stop saying right, as in an affirmative word, because it's a little confusing here. Correct. Yes, we're sitting on a horse on the left, and in the most practical thing for vision, to be able to see everything, is to be on the right side of the road, so that you're more closer to the center of the street, of the road, so you can see things? Is that right? Is that correct?
Driving to the right meant the driver could see oncoming traffic, and it also made it less likely they would steer into a ditch.
Yes, yes, you just had more vision. Being on the left side of the wagon, on a horse on the left side, but on the right side of the road. So you're in the middle. Got it.
Though this has been the practice since colonial times, it wasn't until 1792 and 1804, respectively, that Pennsylvania and New York made it official by regulating it.
Oh my God! Look at this. I haven't. Take a look at this video in the background. By the way, it's absolute chaos. Thank goodness somebody in Pennsylvania and New York 200 years ago made official law about this. My God, that is absolute chaos in the video we're seeing.
Regulating it. Many states then followed their example, but the practice was cemented when Henry Ford put the Model T's steering wheel on the left-hand side of the car.
That's right. That's why the steering wheel is on the left. I mean, that might sound silly, but I've never thought about why is the steering wheel on the left? Why is the steering wheel in British cars on the right? It's because it's exactly the same analogy as the horse-drawn carriage. If you're sitting on the left side of your car, you want to be on the right-hand side of the road. And if you're in a driver's seat that's on the right side of the car, which I've never seen before in real life, and would be extremely uncomfortable for me, you want to be on the left side of the road, so you're more towards the middle of both of the roads. That makes so much sense when you think about it for 2 seconds.
The mass production of affordable cars then saw many countries change their rules of the road. Meanwhile, in the UK, the massive wagons of the US weren't popular. Instead, vehicles in Britain were smaller and had seats for the driver to sit on behind the horses.
Really? So a lot of this was decided by Henry Ford in America, because when he started mass producing cars, he basically got to decide what side of the car he was going to put the steering wheel on. And when he decided to put it on the left-hand side of the car for Americans, that basically determined that we were gonna be right-side drivers forever. But now they're saying that left side driving, or right side steering wheel for British people, was decided by small carriages?
As most people are right-handed, the driver would sit to the right of the seat in order to keep his whip hand free. This ensured that people kept driving to the left.
Somehow it was like decided somehow differently in Britain, in that Britain could have became right side drivers, but first they had this small carriage fad where people wanted to sit on the right side of the small carriage, which did have a seat, because it left their whipping hand more free and accessible, of course.
In addition, 18th century London saw the introduction of a traffic law to make all vehicles on London Bridge keep to the left. This was in an effort to reduce collisions. The rule was then incorporated into the Highway Act of 1835 and was later adopted throughout the UK, making left-hand driving mandatory in Britain.
And there we go. A lot of these laws seem to go into permanent effect dating about 200 years ago for both America and Britain.
The 20th century saw an attempt to harmonize road laws in Europe, leading to a shift in right-hand driving. But that didn't affect the UK. Today,
Oh,
there are around 78 countries and territories that drive on the left.
that is absolutely fascinating. So, I don't know much about other countries around the world in terms of what side of the road they drive on. So, actually, there's a lot of European countries where you drive on the right hand side of the road. Is that correct? So, Britain is actually somewhat unique as far as Europe is concerned, in that in Britain, you're supposed to drive on the left hand side of the road. But then if you travel not that far to other European countries, that changes. I kind of assumed that most of Europe, because of the UK, was left side drivers. I just kind of assumed it. So I actually didn't even know that. But like they said, 65% of the world is right side drivers. That's right. So, anyway, this was really interesting, actually. I didn't know there was going to be a whole history lesson dating back to swords and Rome and carriages and horses that actually explains pretty logically how we ended up where we are now. That is why the British drive on the left. Okay, I am satisfied. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Britain and British culture and learning things about Britain, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.